This Dementia Life, created by Dementia Action Alliance. Our website is daanow.org. I am proud to be your host, Chuck McClatchey, and I live my dementia life with Alzheimer's disease. This Dementia Life podcast, we will have conversations with inspiring people living with dementia and the amazing people that care about us. My guest today is David Kane. Welcome to the show, David, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks for having me, Chuck. I'm a little nervous now that you used the word amazing in your description. I could say in life, I've been a writer and a coach. And one of the wonderful aspects of coaching is that the demand is to be in front of your client and be present to them and to really listen. And in fact, that's sort of been, I guess, a 30 or 40 year journey for me in how to understand how to be present. Because especially nowadays, we're being bombarded all the time with media, our cell phones. We're constantly being distracted. We're being taken out of ourselves. And so we're so little in the moment. And we've come to be sort of separate from life around us. As a kid, I grew up near a woods, and I used to be in those woods as often as possible. And I was always happy there. And I think the nature calls to us to be present to it, and it's sort of present to us at the same time. And this idea of being present just here now, sitting in this chair, feeling my weight in the chair and taking you in, I could see that, there's some nervousness and a tendency to want to go out to convince you, rather than just being within myself. And as you know, my mother died of dementia, of Alzheimer's. And it was, the journey everyone has. There's shock and concern and all of that. But the point to me was, we're born into life as a spirit, and the body, we're born into this body. But our essence, our spiritual essence, is who we are. And that was alive in my mother. I was alive in my mother till the very end. And I thought if I could be present in that way, to be in touch with something finer within myself, there was a possibility of a relationship. And I wasn't going ahead and thinking about what was going to happen. I wasn't looking back to the good times and feeling sad for that loss. I wish just to be there for her, because she's on this journey that I don't understand and I can't control it, but I wish to be there for her. And I gained great solace for that. And, when you connect with people in that way, the present moment is extraordinary. There's no judgment. It's just life. And it happens to feel good.
I'm glad you said that, because putting yourself in a position to understand like what your mom was going through, and not dwell on everything that she used to be, and enjoy the time with her, I think is so important. It's kind of getting rid of that for a while. It's kind of born into us. And it's a lot of self-doubt. It's a lot of, poor me because I'm losing my mother. Well, I think if more people could get over that point, not that you're not sad, not that you're not heartbroken, that has nothing to do with it. But I think a positive attitude helps you when you're heartbroken and you're losing somebody, but you're grateful that they were in your life. Can you kind of explain how kind of your outlook helped you with what you had to deal and the pain with your mom?
Yeah, so much of what you said is right and interesting to me because so much of the time I think I have to get rid of all that stuff in order to be present, right? I can't feel this, I can't feel that, I can't. But the point is, I have to be present is to be present to all of that, right? And to be present to her, I had to be present to my own lack, my own feeling of not being able to. And no, I had the good fortune of working with a shaman from Ecuador who spoke about when one is in connection to the moment, to life, there's a naturally recurring sense of gratitude that appears in the heart. And this is like a guidepost in a way. It's something that one begins to wish for, and to be able to sit there with my mom and to be grateful to have had all of that relationship without going back and reliving it, but just to be present to the life that was in both of us at that time. So, how to do that is a practice, and I like to practice in front of everybody I meet, just to stop and to be there for them. And I find that so often I'm rushing through my day, feeling I have to get somewhere, feeling pushed by the momentum of life. But, life, we don't have a lot of time in life. And yet we spend it as if it's, as if we're Bill Gates, and have an unlimited supply. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's true. I know that people think that if you have this kind of an outlook, then you don't. You brought it up a good way. I think the point is that you still have to deal with the frustration, the hurt, and everything in life. It's not that you don't care about that, or that doesn't bother you. Of course it bothers you as much as anybody else. But the process of being grateful that you're there, and being grateful that, well, like with your mom, to be able to be with her, and if nothing else, just to hold her hand.
Yeah.
That you are kind of going into her reality. And by understanding that, I think it helps with sadness. And like you said, like kind of being in the moment to appreciate what we have.
Yeah. And it's important to recognize, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that it's hard to do this. We weren't trained to do it. We weren't, our feelings weren't nurtured, as for most people that I know. They're taught to disassociate themselves so that they can, in school you have to fit into a mold, and you can't feel, you don't have time for feelings, and so to allow oneself the luxury of letting go, of let the stuff comes up, and after a while it's just noise that you can let go, and it's really can be breathtaking to be with someone who is so spontaneous, because the moment drops away and the next one is renewed, and it's not the way you want it to be. It's you didn't sign up for this, but it's like anything else. If you don't face it, you're not in life. This is our circumstances, the condition. This is my life. So why run away from it? This is what I was given to work with.
I have one question. I know that if I get stressed and stuff and I want to totally relax, I was raised in a place called Paradise in California, which is kind of up in the mountains.
Yeah, went through some terrific times recently.
Yes. And I remember because my room actually was on the back porch of our house. because I wanted a room to myself, and my other siblings had their own room in the house. But the place that I go to whenever I need to is the sound of the wind going through the top of the pine trees,
Mm-hmm.
which is a kind of a different sound all by itself. And to be able to enjoy that. And I still get it when I go back into the woods and I can hear the breezes blowing through the top of the trees. And to me, that just kind of takes all the stress, and it pulls the plug on your toe, and it kind of all drains out for a while. It's going to build back up, but for that period of time, it kind of flows out.
Yeah.
And it really makes you understand how lucky we are to have what we have, to be where we're at, and to be able to have the life that we're having. And I think if especially when you go through a diagnosis of a terminal disease and how that affects the entire family, not just the person with the disease, but everybody around them, to be able to start understanding that the person with dementia is now living in a different perception than they were before, and be able to accept that and understand that their perception is their life as they see it in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And not always want to change them or correct them when they start remembering things that may not have happened, calling them by different names. It's just, I think if more people would just be understanding and just take the person's hand and says, yes, I'm your Uncle Joe. Yes, I am. And just let them smile, because in their mind, that person means a lot to them. And that's what you are representing by just holding their hand.
Yeah. Yeah. There is always a tendency to impose, the mind wants to impose its reality on everyone else. But what you talked about in terms of the wind is so important, and at least for me, because I have a relationship with nature that's similar to that. But it doesn't have to be nature. Our body is rooted in the present. We can worry and regret yesterday and tomorrow. We can think about it, but we can only sense the present. Right? If we're sensing something, if we're really listening, if we have open an orange and have that smell bring us to the moment, right? It's very strong. And things drop away because we're carrying those things and we don't need to. We need them for life, but we don't need them all the time. So to be able to drop away and just be present to what is, and with our senses, because that's a support. And you begin with just sight and sound, taste, maybe smell, but there's a whole other layer of sensing of the life within us, that really roots us to the moment, to the present.
I really like what you said about the senses, like opening the orange. I think if you're enjoying the moment, whether you're, maybe you go to the fair or you go to something and you're just enjoying the moment, there are so many other senses that, like you said, that come into play. Your sense of smell, your skin, a breeze or something that, it allows you to revert to a place that you were just 100% totally happy. I love it when we're driving around and either people are cutting grass, or if you're in the farming area, the alfalfa, there was a certain smell that just kind of gives you the warm fuzzies. It takes you to a place where, oh God, I remember that. That's how I grew up. And that's, that smell and stuff just represents so much good. And being able to be open to that, like I said, just opening an orange and, smelling that sense just kind of, you have to just kind of smile. And for that moment, there is no stress. You're just enjoying exactly what you're doing. And by that, you're recurring memories that are so positive that it keeps you on that road.
Yeah. Yeah, it really has to, I think it feels like it brings the body to my attention, brings my attention to the body, which is in the moment, and sound you talked about before, and the sounds of the fair. And it occurs to me that, music, probably all sound in some way, it seems to be directly connected to the heart. Music is especially true about that, and why it's used in therapy so much. It just goes right, and the heart has a much better memory than our minds do, and it's a more true memory, and often, So that's important to remember, that our senses can help both of us be present.
Oh, I agree, and I'm glad you brought that up about the music, because I remember seeing a tape of a lady who was in the latter stages of dementia, and she couldn't talk very well, and she couldn't, pay attention, but they put a headphone on her with her favorite music, and she just came alive.
Yeah.
For that moment, she wasn't in there. She was back to where she had those memories. And she was kind of singing along, and she was moving her arms and moving her feet. And it was amazing to see. And I think anything that can get people more oriented to our life is inside of us. And if you don't enjoy it, then you're going to miss a lot.
Yeah.
And everybody's in this hustle bustle, and you have to believe like me because I'm right, and all of this. Just kind of, we need to get away from that and back into, hey, what a gorgeous day it is out today. We're lucky to live where we live and have a beautiful view. Kind of greet people with a smile, because there was always somebody, and a lot of people that have it a lot worse than you do. And we need to get away from that, oh, poor me, poor me. Poor me, I'm losing my grandmother. Poor me, I'm losing this. No, it's not poor you, it's lucky you, because you had them for this period of time. And now you need to be with them on their journey. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be, so important. How could people, either contact you or get more information about, kind of training themselves to live in the moment?
Well, I've been part of a practice for over 30 years that is the teaching of Gurdjieff. He was born in the mid 1800s, and as a young kid, he was born in near the Russian border to Asia Minor, and it was the crossroads for the exotic East and Western science. And he was fascinated by this, but he had a burning question of, why is mankind here? We must serve a purpose. And he spent 20 years trying to find hidden schools in Tibet, in Afghanistan, and all these cultures, and came back with this teaching that he embodied. And one of the things, it's a work to be present. It's to become conscious of oneself, to know oneself. And he has, you could say, these ideas that one of his students wrote about, that is a framework for the work. And so I'd be happy to talk to anyone about this, and feel free to give them my information. But one of the things that he brought is that, we're not one mind. We have two natures. We have a spiritual nature, we have a physical nature. We have a body and our essence, our spiritual essence. And we have centers, or our chakras, of that are our instinctive center, our moving center, our physical center, the heart and its feelings, and the mind. And they're all part of the package, but they're not together. So how to bring them together so one can be present and wholly oneself. And when you talk about the woman putting on the headphones, I can imagine that this was something that her body, each of these centers has its own memory. And the body remembers how to move, and it animates our life, right? So giving that some attention is you become alive again, and the body is allowed to express itself. So often we sort of stop moving, because of circumstances, and don't allow people to express themselves from the different parts.
Okay, we got a few minutes left. What would you like to say to people that are maybe going through a very rough time when they see this video? Either maybe they just got diagnosed, somebody they know has gotten diagnosed, and they're dealing with all of that stress and, anger, fear, all of that stuff that we all have to deal with on a journey like this.
Well, I think that it's important to feel what you feel, and to go through it, but also to recognize that what's alive will never die, and there's life in you. And if this fear and if this anger is keeping you from being connected to the life, which, by the way, is made of a fine material that constantly is in exchange with the people who are around, right? So to be connected to somebody is so important. Mankind, we all need to be in relationship. So it's not good to, certainly everybody needs some time alone, but isolation and is not a good thing, I don't think. That one needs to have a work to be connected. And also to recognize that I'm not going to be this way for a long time, right? I mean, time passes, and it's just a fact of life. And so what's important to you in the moment? And too often, we're afraid not to let go of the stories we tell ourselves about the poor me, or because we think that's us. There's a possibility to recognize that what's truly you is deeper inside. And if that can be touched, then there's no judgment. You're directly connected to life in a way that transcends anything I've experienced.
Well, that's awesome, and I want to thank you again for taking the time to talk with us. And you're an amazing person to talk with, and your outlook, I think, is needed so badly by so many people who just load themselves down with so much guilt and hurt that they can't even really look around and enjoy what we have around us,
Right.
And what we're doing today, sitting here talking, conversing about a subject that we both like, and being able to possibly help somebody else through some really rough times.
Yeah.
Where they can still have that little smile on their face, be very grateful for what they have, and be grateful for the life that they've lived.
And enjoy the simple thing, because that'll root you to the moment, right?
That's it. And, thank you so much. And I would like to thank Dementia Action Alliance for their support on behalf of This Dementia Life. I would like to thank you for joining us today. You can view other podcasts on our website at DAA Now and click on podcast. And please join me again to meet the most inspiring and amazing people on This Dementia Life. And I'm the host, Chuck McClatchey, and remember, the mind may forget, but the heart remembers. We'll see you next time on This Dementia Life.